that CDX token. We the ones chosen. Every state, every youth, while I stay golden. Codex Club, AI mind focus. It's an anthem. CDX got them frozen.
Hello, welcome to Club Cod3x, your source for insider crypto insights. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate. I just want to let you all know this year, I'm thankful for you, dear viewer, and the nonstop procession of pardons and other good news, which have pumped my bags to the moon. Now, today we're going to be talking politics, Pendle, privacy, and the future of AI agents. So be sure to stick around, folks. I've got the classic usual suspects with me today. You won't want to miss it. So let's get started, folks, with the news. If I can find the thing to hit to do it.
Breaking news, gotta drop the bomb. Hottest school since Marvel's prom.
If you guys know anyone that can run a StreamYard, let me know, because it's a lot of balls to juggle here.
Bro, you
Orwell is shopping for a replacement for himself as we speak.
Well, no, I mean, I'm more than happy to get up here and hear myself talk, but someone's got to hit the buttons. It's a little outside my pay grade.
I can hit the buttons if you're okay with like 5 seconds of wiggle room on each side.
Nah, I'm not okay with that. So with me today, of course, maybe we should start doing intros. I think we should start doing intros. I'm Corval of Club Cod3x. Today, I've got a genius analyst here to my right, Charles, Chucky, as I like to call him. And we have the CEO himself of Conclave, notorious crypto, what would you call it?
Guy.
Builder.
Guy. I was going to say the company Conclave. CEO Justin Beavis with us. Thank you two for joining me today. How are you all feeling? Did you enjoy well, Charles, I don't know if you celebrate the pilgrims and the natives. Do that?
Yeah, we do. It just happens like 6 weeks before you guys, which I don't know why. Yeah, just because we need to differentiate ourselves somehow because we're insecure about.
So it's do you have like
being an
turkey?
arm of America? Do we have? Yeah, we have like turkey and yeah. I think the meal is somewhat the same.
Do you guys have poutine?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, poutine isn't really as big amongst
Maple
Canadians
syrup.
as it is with people who just come to Canada.
I see.
It's kind of like I don't know. I mean,
So it's like a tourist. It's a tourist item.
A little bit. Canadians don't really.
So you're telling me I can buy French fries topped with shitty brown gravy for $10? And
dude, it isn't
that's the best deal I've ever heard.
Bro.
I feel like poutine might be very popular here in Nashville. Every restaurant I go to, they're slathering poutine all over things that don't even make sense.
I remember poutine kind of had a big uprising. If you remember the oatmeal, I feel like the guy who was like epic sriracha bacon, I feel like he was also into poutine, and he psyoped a bunch of Redditors into paying $10 for French fries. In LA, we have asada fries, which are much better.
What the hell is that? Is that what you had for Thanksgiving, Beavis?
Yeah, we just had a big bowl of French fries.
Okay,
Actually,
good.
I had pan con pollo, which is traditional Salvadoran chicken.
Bread with chicken?
Bread with chicken, baby. And
Pan con
watercress
pollo.
and vegetables and delicious sauce.
Doesn't get better
Wonderful.
than that.
I'm glad to hear you guys are eating well, although we didn't get what Charles ate. Guys, drop in the chat right now, right in this moment. Let's get some interactions going. Drop in the replies, drop in the chat. What did you have for Thanksgiving dinner? You have anything weird, anything a little funky? I want to know. I want to know what you converted your tokens into and then ate. Now, let's talk about the news, guys. Let's talk about some things. I was kind of checked out, to be honest, over the weekend because I had family, we're doing the whole holiday thing. But there have been some big news stories that kind of broke through for me. And top of the news story here for me, one that's blowing up my feed, I'm sure doing the same for you. Not super impactful for crypto, but still just kind of interesting. Joe Biden pardoned his son, also in the spirit of family and togetherness and forgiveness and thankfulness. He has pardoned his son for anything he might have done wrong between the years of 2014 and 2024, I believe.
Hell yeah.
Complete blanket pardon here. Yep, 2014 to 2024. That's a long time, guys. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying, it starts in 2014 because that's when Hunter got the job in Ukraine. But I kind of just think it's just because he loves his son, dude. I don't think there's anything fishy going on here. What do you guys think? How do you feel about this? Does it matter for you at all, Charles?
No. Was this like a Thanksgiving thing where he pardoned a turkey and then he pardoned
his son, who was acting quite a bit like a turkey between the years of 2014.
There you go. That's right.
All turkey is pardoned.
2 turkeys got pardoned this year. Good one.
If he called his son, if he was like, now quit being a turkey, if he did something like that, then I think it's totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I figure if you're going to be the president, you may as well just sprinkle a little bit of extra corruption on at the very end, and then just say goodbyes.
Get your final, last couple licks in.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to point out too, I thought this was interesting because political class, have also been pointing out, this is like bizarre for a lot of people, because the thing is that the closest comparison here in terms of pardons, usually a pardon is very specific. Usually a pardon is like, I'm pardoning you for that murder you did or whatever, but this is such a blanket. The closest comparison is Nixon when Ford pardoned him for Watergate, all the stuff associated with that, and then whatever other stuff they might find out, essentially. So I think it's kind of interesting, and it's setting a really cool tone here, right? I feel like heading into the Christmas season, everyone is just it's like a jubilee. Everyone's getting away with everything, By that I mean, the court cases we'll get into later. I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but aside from that, another little piece of political news I wanted to share with you guys and see what you guys thought about this is the Broligarchs, what the Broligarchs want from Trump. Now, what do you think about this, Charles? Do you like this term Broligarch?
No, I don't. I don't know what to think of it. I guess it's like kind of accurate.
I guess
the Atlantic.
The thing that irks me about this is not like the cringe nomenclature. I kind of expect that from the political elite, but it implies that there are good oligarchs.
Yeah, that's
like,
these
shitty oligarchs aren't like our oligarchs. It's like the stupidest shit in the whole world, and it's like, it's like hand wringing and like the invention of like us versus them, and it's like it just, I don't know. It's freaking, it's beyond the pale. It's like cringe and also telegraphs, a really significant level of moral corruption, I would say.
Well, I think we have to admit that, the political systems in any country rely on specialists and people with a lot of power and influence at the top, right? You can't be me up in the White House. I have no say or knowledge or influence to get anything done. But the CEO of a company probably has enough pull to make things happen. So to your point, it is just like a branding thing. They're just saying like, these are the oligarchs I don't like. But interestingly enough, this article is essentially your typical like political, I don't know, mudslinging, puff piece, just being like, these are the guys I don't like. This is why I don't like them. But what's interesting is they do outline specifically what they don't like about their policies. Now, this is a paywalled version, but I did bring my notes. And I'm curious to what you guys think about this. The claim being made in this article is that these bros, specifically Silicon Valley and Wall Street bros, are influencing Trump's policies to a detrimental effect for the long-term well-being of the United States. Specifically, when it comes to things like crypto, which this person makes the case that people like Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, and Elon Musk all have stated fairly slightly different ways that they want to create these like libertarian states out there, like a new BioShock, like a city on the water, or something like this, Prospero, which is a city that is built by venture capital in place of my ancestry, Honduras.
Dude, that looks like the Optimism homepage. That looks like
well,
like
dude, these are the same
Citizen's House.
guys invested in Optimism. So
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly,
maybe Optimism is
yeah.
going to govern. OP governance is going to govern the next
It's going to govern the United
political
States. That'd be
$1
awesome.
trillion utopia.
Yeah.
Hell
So that's their claim, is that they are pushing for crypto's wide acceptance, which we've seen from the Trump platform quite a lot recently. Now, what do you guys think about? Do you like the idea of these? Because this is something in the previous bull market people also talked about, forming these new pseudo states with cryptocurrency as the economic backbone of the country. Bullish or bearish?
here's the thing.
Mhm.
Like every tech bro, myself included,
Mhm.
sometimes sits down,
This guy too.
especially him. He is the originator of this thought.
Eggman
Sits down
himself.
and thinks,
He is. Yeah, I was gonna say he
What
is
if-
like
what if we-
like Egghead 0, like prototype
what if
0
we
Egghead.
what if we turned
Please
the
answer my emails,
world
interesting.
into a B2B SaaS company?
Mhm.
They think that. And then sometimes, if they're surrounded by enough yes men, they think that so much, so often, and for so long
Mhm.
that they raise $40 billion to build an island somewhere. And they're like, oh, we could remove all of the world's problems if we eliminate poor people. And by eliminate poor people, they mean just don't let them in. Poor people over here, rich people here, and then we'll paywall everything, and then we'll charge people like this is, AWS instance.
Mhm.
And sure, it happens. One, where's the labor coming from? Okay, of course, they're importing the labor from all the poor people they don't let in the city. And what happens eventually? Okay, look at San Francisco. They're like, oh, we fucked up San Francisco, but we'll get it right this time, I swear, guys. Our B2B SaaS city. And it's just like, that happens every time, because it's like entropy eats away. And it's like, as people have children, it's like, okay, maybe their child doesn't really hold the same values as the parent, who's maybe the perfect citizen for the super society. And then it's like, okay, how do you solve for that problem? Okay, how do you solve for this? How do you solve for that? How do you solve for that? And it's trying to apply, their kind of business framework, which look at all the failed relationships they have in their wake. They're trying to apply that framework to human beings. And it just is like, it's thought experiment. It's like, I'm so bored and I'm so rich. Let's play Civ 4 in real life or something.
I see.
I
think that's an excellent point. You're essentially saying
that they saw who published that article, and then they were like, Atlantis, huh? And then, let's build a lost city.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I mean, so essentially the point you're making here is, their specific knowledge, classic case here, where if you develop a lot of specific field knowledge, you start to believe that it's applicable cross field, cross discipline,
Yeah.
A guy who's got a PhD in mathematics thinks everything is math. I mean, he might be right, but he thinks that relationships can be mathematically reduced, all that sort of thing. And so the hope here, I guess, is that the American political system can restrain some of these grander ambitions they have of creating, I don't know, San Francisco 2 and Tulsa.
Yeah, I mean, like they can do this stuff, and they're using all their money and their friends' money, but it's like, it's just, there aren't enough people telling them they're retarded is the main issue. Eventually you get so rich that people stop calling you a retard within hearing distance. People are still going to do it like, all over the place. And I hate to use that word, but as you specialize and specialize and specialize, and you become the god of B2B SaaS, you need to realize that most other aspects of your life, you're going to be dumb as shit. And it's fine. It's okay. Maybe you specialize in a couple hobbies, you're good at Diablo, or, maybe you pick up painting or whatever the hell. But the thing is, it's like, there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough time in the human life to just be the master of all domains. And there are people who just really want to be the master of all domains. Maybe they have ADHD, maybe they made a bunch of money and are bored. And I think you just sure, apply your skill set to all these different domains. And I'm sure there's a lot of interesting stuff that can come of it. But at the end of the day, it's like, you're not necessarily that guy. You can be your type of guy. You can't be every guy. You can't be this guy, that guy, the other guy. And you have this hammer that you think is the hammer of God, and you see everything in the world as a nail, but not everything is a nail. And that is maybe they're successful. Maybe they launched the world's greatest utopia, but how many people in history do you think have said that?
Yeah, it's a classic desire. And I think the typical assessment of this phenomenon you said is the truly great leaders tend to delegate to the specialists, right? Like if I'm a master of B2B, SaaS, right, then I would delegate the city running to, I don't know, the best mayor I've ever met. I don't know. I can afford his budget.
Truly great leaders are kind of masters of none. They, like, you could say jack of all trades, but truly great leaders are not specialists. They're
you need to know how stupid
generalists.
They're sociopaths.
You need to study so hard. The more stuff you know that you don't know, the easier it is to win. You just you need to have a very precise measurement internally, mentally, of how stupid you are, and then the rest is just a delegation problem. Yeah. So maybe these VCs are just so freaking good at delegating, dude. And honestly, Elon Musk,
he's got to be delegating.
He landed that fucking rocket, dude. I saw that and I was like, it's hard to be a hater after that. So maybe he is truly the chosen one. Maybe he's somehow secured the mandate of heaven. But at the end of the day, I just, look at his utterly failed personal life. And
what do you mean? He's got so many kids. They love him.
Oh, dude, they adore him. I just think that, that speaks to a huge kind of gap in understanding of the world, which is fine for what he does. But if you're trying to create a utopian society, I feel like hiring a guy who is, functionally mentally disabled when it comes to interacting with human beings on a personal or intimate level, you should maybe raise a red flag.
So you're not comfortable moving to the Mars colony?
I won't be moving to the Mars colony, but I also didn't buy XRP. So,
mid-curve.
I'm not perfect.
Now, the thing that I found really interesting about this circle that I really want to hone in is this idea of, because it's a typical bull market thing. And maybe this is an example of the same phenomenon we're talking about, where we all feel like we're geniuses because the market's going up, crypto's doing well. But there is this classic thing where it's, let's make a society based off of this now. Let's make a whole new society. You got Akon City in Africa.
If Akon couldn't do it, you really think you can do it?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think I'm as good of a singer as Akon. That's true. But yeah, so
I think T-Pain could probably do it.
Dude,
I would believe in him.
T-Pain, everybody in the world is a fan of T-Pain right now.
Yeah. He's great. He's on Twitch. You could catch him live after this stream, I think.
Such a personable guy. We need to get him on here.
Yeah, I think we
need to
should.
Get him to launch a coin.
If we start,
Corval was in the middle of
no, I just kind of wanted to get your ideas here on whether or not you think it's truly feasible or possible for any kind of blockchain tech to supplant a monetary system, or if it will always work kind of in tandem. Charles, this is all on you, and then we're going to throw it to the CEO, Beavis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just I think it's a tool. It's not. I don't think it's something that needs to be an idea needs to be formed around it. I think that it should be used to what are you smiling at? It's a tool to make things more efficient. I don't think that we need to just it's we have blockchain now, we should scrap everything and start from blockchain is now ground zero. I think it needs to just kind of dovetail into the existing good ideas that are around, because not everything that exists needs to be scrapped, if that makes sense. I do think it's funny. It's a funny thing to think about, where this, I feel like if someone had posed this a tech bro city at the bottom of the bear market, everyone just laughs at them, and now
coins are up, and they're like,
now coins are up, and now it's an amazing idea.
I need a way to insulate myself from poor people. To me, it's people will always obsess in the crypto world about what money is technically, and I think thinking about what money is emotionally, like to me, and this is just like crackpot science, but money is like a distillation of value that you have created as a person, and it's also kind of a distillation of the opportunity that your economic input has created on the other end. So it's kind of like, hey, I have this money, I can use it to access an opportunity because I've created an opportunity for others. So I've done my job, I've created a fraction of an opportunity for this business unit that can maybe be extrapolated upon and expounded upon. Now I have this money representing that. I can do it to do anything. If I want an opportunity to eat a McDonald's cheeseburger, then I can access that almost instantly with this money. And if I want to create a better life for myself, I can do that if I collect enough of this opportunity. And I think divorcing the technical aspects of money, being this is a medium of exchange, from kind of the more human and emotive aspects of money, being this is the world of opportunity. Like, why does Bitcoin suck? Bitcoin sucks because you can't directly access opportunity with it. And it's great in a lot of other ways. And when it's going up, you can potentially use it to access more US dollar denominated opportunity than you would otherwise. But at the end of the day, like, you need a functioning society with a lot of, really great use cases for the money for it to matter. And I think that's like, the nice thing about the US dollar is our military industrial complex has, pushed and pushed and pushed for, decades and decades to get us to a point where we have this US dollar, we can go anywhere and do anything with it. And Bitcoin, like, it's kind of hard to even off ramp nowadays. So I would say, like, there's a lot that goes into a society. And if you've ever read like The Ones That Walk Away from Omelas, which is a really classic short story about a little kid locked in a basement, and his suffering is kind of fueling the utopia above him. It's kind of like perspective matters a lot when you're building a society, and you can have kind of the insider and outsider culture and kind of fabricate a lot of the feelings of goodness and morality, etc. But I think things will always mean revert. Like, you will always create kind of, even if you're trying to fabricate the perfect utopia, you will create that divide, you will create a bell curve, and everything will be relative to everything else. And it's like, either you reinforce delusion to the degree that nobody cares, or you just be destroyed, or just you fail normally over tens or hundreds of years. But I think you can't insulate yourself from life. You can't insulate yourself from the human condition.
I see. So a big no in that blockchains will not be the impetus for founding new societies that will be utopias. And I guess that scraps the plans for, Codexia, my city plan that was going to run off of Codex only.
It makes it easier to settle transactions in US dollars. So it makes it easier to make a United States satellite state, is the reality. And you can pretend otherwise, but it's like, I have this Bitcoin. The only reason this matters right now is its US dollar denomination is going up, 1, and 2, it can easily be settled in US dollars.
Like an L2 off of the United States. Crypto is all just a USD L2. Is that true?
Dude, that might be true, bro.
All right.
Genius.
Well, that might be
that's how they should
us
market
chew
these
on.
things. I'm sure everyday people would love that.
So that's our official policy here at Codex, is that that all crypto is a US dollar L2.
That's right.
So I think that kind of sums up our feelings here. Unless you got something else you want to say about this, Charles. Anything else you want to say about society falling to being run by scammers and ruggers?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I'll save it for next time.
Perfect. Then we're going to move right on into your own special segment here, Charles, because I feel like we're not giving you enough, airtime usually on this show, because you got a lot of really smart things to say. You got your finger on the pulse. Let's talk a little bit about Pendle, which you were explaining to me before, but I could use a refresher.
Yes.
So what is the deal with this?
Yeah, I wanted to talk
Pendle.
about this because Pendle is such a mammoth, and they just dominate like their own vertical. And so anytime they do anything new, I get excited, and they're just like a extremely based team. So when they build some new stuff, I always want to talk about it. So okay, they are introducing this this update called Boros, and originally it was going to be V3, but this is going to exist in tandem with V2. So it's kind of like a separate product. But nothing with their like current offerings are changing. They're just kind of adding on to things. So what they've built with this update. So I guess I'll start just with what they do currently, which is yield trading. Essentially, it's interest rate swaps, but for DeFi. So interest rate swaps in TradFi allow people to hedge their interest rate risk through like forward rate agreements or futures, where like a forward rate agreement, one party fixes their rate, and the other party receives a floating rate. And then the fixed rate payer is essentially hedging the risk that the interest rate they're paying right now is going to go up in the future. They'll fix that rate for a year or 6 months or whatever. Futures, it's kind of, you can do the same thing. So Pendle does this for DeFi. Everybody already knows this via principal and yield tokens, where you can fix the yield that you're getting on like an LP position or interest bearing stables or staked ETH or whatever. You can either fix the rate you're getting, you can hedge whatever position you have, and you can also speculate that yields are going to go up or down in the future. So that's what they do right now.
Now, real quick, let's give like a very specific, tangible example that someone could get their teeth into. So let's say I go to Pendle, I have some ETH staked, it's generating like 4%. I could swap and lock it in at 4%. Like, what do you mean?
Yes. So like, let's say that I like to use SDAI as an example, because the ETH staking rate is usually pretty, it's pretty steady. But like, let's say like Maker is offering 8%. I think like a few months ago, they had this big, they wanted to push more demand for DAI. And so they increased the yield on SDAI a lot. They like spent a bunch of their huge treasury in this campaign. And the DAI yield was like 8 or 10% at some point. I think this was right after USDE launched. So what you could do is go to Pendle and fix that rate you're getting on like 6 months or a year for however long, because you think in the future that yield is going to drop. You're like, okay, it's not going to be paying out 10% this entire year. I can get 10% right now. And so I'm going to fix that in, and I'm just going to like, now I have literal fixed income using Pendle and DAI. And on the other side, people can buy yield tokens, which increase in value as the principal token is just the principal. The yield token represents the yield. And you can buy a yield token that increases in value as SDAI yield would go up. So, if it's relatively low, then you can buy it, speculating on how the yield's gonna move. So that's generally what Pendle does now.
So this is kind of like a Uni V2 pool, you could think, where people are buying and selling these yield tokens, and price discovery is happening, but people are speculating on the price of future yield, not on like, well, I mean, it is the price of the asset at a given moment. It's just a very unique asset in that way. So just like people are trading shit coins and meme coins, how much is this going to be valued a day from now or a week from now or a year from now? Same thing with these YTs. And so what people do, they deposit the wrap staked ETH, they split it up into the principal token, which is locked, I believe, for a year, and the yield token. And then they can just dump that yield token, instantly realize that value. So if the market thinks it's going to stay 10% for a while, you cash in on that market thought. And I think in the case of SDAI specifically, yields went down quite a bit after that. So the market kind of ate up a ton of this downside risk, and people who sold those yield tokens at the top made an absolute killing.
Yeah, totally. So that's, current Pendle, huge player in DeFi.
Good tech.
Good tech.
So this
so this new upgrade, it's called Boros, which I love that name, is introducing what we just described on margin. So leveraged yield trading, which is exciting in itself.
Awesome.
Crazy. But also bringing in funding rates as part of their suite of like the yield that you can trade, which is huge because so funding rates are what balance perpetuals markets or futures markets. So it is, it's the cost or reward of opening an existing perps position. So let's say the entire market is really bullish. Everybody is really long. The funding rate is going to make the longs pay the shorts an interest rate to try and balance out that market again and have more shorts open up and have less longs and have more longs close. So if the funding rate is 0, it means there's an equal sort of notional value of longs and shorts existing on a given market in a really simple, explained in a really simple way. So funding rates dictate, you can look at funding rates and get an idea of what the market is thinking about what's coming. Like right now, actually, I don't know about today, but just generally like this past month, funding rates have been really, really positive because everybody's super bullish. Everybody's opening a bunch of longs. And all the longs are paying the shorts like pretty high interest. So Pendle is now introducing funding rates as something that you'll be able to trade, which is really huge because first of all, perps markets do like, it's like 200 billion on a daily basis in volume, which is, it dwarfs spot volume. Perps, it's
an amazing
it's all
tool.
the volume in DeFi.
It's like it's used like a lot of people think perps, they think high leverage degeneracy, but a lot of that volume is just used by firms to hedge their positions. Because imagine if you're a hedge fund and you're holding spot ETH, maybe you don't want 100% exposure to that spot ETH, so you can hedge out some of that risk. And a lot of times by shorting ETH, you get paid to do it. Same with Bitcoin, same with all these assets. So it's a really great way for people to fine tune their exposure. And because you can do it on really high leverage, it's super capital efficient. So it's like you could have, $100,000 and hedge out millions of dollars of risk. And that's why these instruments are really exciting.
Yeah, this is crazy. So this is allowing a new way to so Pendle's initial product, it allows you to kind of mitigate some of the risk for interest rate fluctuations. And this new product is going to allow you to mitigate some of the risk for your funding rate fluctuations, right? You're kind of betting on, at a time like this when everyone is long, if you get what's the opposite of a short squeeze? A long squeeze, a lot of liquidations. Hitler, you might want to be hedged against that.
And it's also like, imagine the bonk guy that had that huge 8-figure bonk position up like 200x or whatever. Imagine what he was paying in funding to keep that open for months and months and months and months. Imagine if he was able to hedge that properly at the outset before funding rates spiked. And I think like that's really interesting because before that, it's like Ethena kind of owned that market. It was like, okay, if I want exposure to funding rates, I need to use USDE to kind of compose a position that way, because they try to telegraph kind of or deliver to the user kind of a pure funding rate, but they take so many fees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now Pendle is like, hey, we're going to give it to you in a pure form, and we're going to keep a lot of those fees for ourselves.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Athena is a perfect example, or like is the perfect customer for
Oh,
Boros
yeah.
because right now, like there isn't a way to hedge funding rates at scale. And I wouldn't be surprised if Athena went to Pendle in the first place and was like, yo,
Dude, they must.
if you build this, we like,
100%.
we'll be your only customer and you'll make, do billions in volume. So
Mm.
like with Athena, they can hedge out all the because they have a risk of the market tanking, funding rates going negative, and that's the yield on USDE. So they have they have to have a bunch of like insurance measures in place to sort of manage all this this risk that they're taking by having a delta neutral these positions open. And so the real alpha here is Athena is going to have to hedge out, or they will be hedging out all their funding rate risk. You or I can come in and take the other side of that trade, knowing that there's going to be so much volume, trying to fix funding rates. We can come in and make, buku bucks in a market this hot, when funding rates are so high and like shifts in funding rates. We can trade against Athena, knowing that they're not doing it to make a profit. They're doing it to protect against losses.
And there are a lot. There's going to be like a lot of forced entry and forced hedging, and there's also going to be a lot of general mispricing, because this is going to be the first time that the crypto market is trading an instrument like this. And keeping your eyes out, there are going to be some tremendous opportunities if you do your research and you develop like a really strong thesis about the directionality of funding rates. And one of my favorite marketing tools that Pendle had, which I thought was so genius, was they were marketing swaps as effectively APR. So if you remember, they were like, oh, this person made functionally 45 million% APR on their swap by making this trade here. And the difference was like, 100, 200 basis points of yield. And the reality is like, that's not so far off. It's a little ridiculous, but there are opportunities like that. And a lot of people are going to be flooding into this market and probably being fairly impatient. So look forward to that. And big shout out Pendle for making the good tech.
Awesome. Yeah. Congrats, Pendle, and congrats to viewers who just got served some easy wins here on leveraging this new product. So hopefully
they're on base now, by the way. Pendle's on base now, which is also really exciting. We need to get staked CDX USD out ASAP so people can trade CDX USD yields.
I agree with you, Charles. I agree with you, Charles. But let's wrap up this segment here. That's enough free publicity for Pendle here. Let's move on to... That's right. Headlines. And today our headline, the top one with a bullet, is the Tornado Cash ruling, which happened, what was that, on Friday? On Saturday? It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. I'll give you guys the bullet points here. The court concluded that Tornado, let me give you the backstory if you don't know. Tornado Cash is a funds mixer. It's a way to privatize your transactions and send money so no one knows who sent who to what to who. Well, yeah, what to who. Came under intense scrutiny after all those hacks that happened, and North Korea laundered $450 some odd million through Tornado Cash. They got slapped with a sanction. Tornado Cash did. Became illegal for American citizens to use, and their dev got arrested. Recently, their dev was released in the Netherlands, and the U.S. court has ruled in Tornado Cash's favor. Sweet, right?
Yeah.
The real details here are
let's go.
This important part here. The court concluded that Tornado Cash's immutable smart contracts do not qualify as property because they cannot be owned, controlled, or altered by anyone, including their creators. Now, this is when we're talking about like an immutable contract. We mean like a smart contract that has been deployed and cannot be altered in any way. Right. Yeah. I mean, all smart contracts really can't be altered, but this is saying, this specific type is immune to this kind of litigation. You can't sue someone for making a technology, essentially, is what this case is saying.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to rain on the parade a little bit here because it is one, the court is saying like this didn't really accomplish what you wanted it to accomplish because the North Koreans can still use Tornado Cash. They don't care that you said that they're not allowed to use it. You can't take down the application. You can't, like, Tornado Cash's contracts are there. They're always going to be usable. So this was like a pointless litigation, but they do open the door, or they do suggest the courts that alternate laws be drafted to kind of mitigate U.S. citizens from interacting with Tornado Cash. Saying that, the instincts were right by the prosecution, that Americans shouldn't be using money laundering tools or whatever, or how they phrase it. But the case as it exists now is dead. Now, what does this mean for us, Beavis?
Yeah, I mean, if you remember when Tornado Cash was banned, we talked about it on a podcast together, I think, Corball. And while I was disappointed, I understood. I was like, typical Beavis being on the wrong side of history, but I was like, it is used for a lot of money laundering, folks. Like, it makes a lot of sense that they're getting slammed. Now, I will say, I'm ecstatic that it was, it came out in our favor. And I think that really what this does is it puts a premium on immutability that was a little bit lost. Because for the longest time, on the legal end of crypto, the litigious end, the end everybody hates, one of the arguments for using proxied smart contracts, using mutable or upgradable smart contract systems, was that you could respond to a subpoena. If you remember when Oasis basically rugged the hacker that deposited in their protocol Oasis an extension of MakerDAO, if you aren't able to respond like that, what happens? And based on what happened with Tornado Cash and some of the other enforcement actions, the assumption was you can't upgrade and respond to a subpoena, you just go to jail. And there's no recourse for you because the contract isn't upgradable. So this gives us a super easy precedent to say, hey, if we don't have a way to circumvent this issue, then it's over for us. And really what I think is that this is going to kind of, like they're saying in that article, this is going to introduce more sensible regulation, which is what we've been looking for, which is, okay, the default state isn't going to be you're going to go to jail and we're going to murder you. The default state is now, all right, we need real regulations because that's not going to work. So I think what that means is probably using Tornado Cash is going to be a lot like buying a gun. It's going to be a lot like, any kind of, it's going to be like driving a car. It's like, okay, if you're going to buy this car, get it registered. If you're going to use this thing, get it registered. Submit your input, make sure you register your output address. And if you don't register your output address within a period of time, you're going to jail because you're probably laundering money or you're going to get investigated. That's probably where we'll see things shake out stateside, which is a hell of a lot better than anything else. And there will be, we'll still be in the Wild West for a while, I'm sure. People can just use it while courts figure it out, which might take a couple years. But I'll tell you as well, forensics firms, like Tornado Cash isn't really a strong protection anymore. If the government is after you, you can get really, really significant surety of both sides of the transaction. And I think one of the really interesting things was that when Tornado Cash was sanctioned, there were way fewer transactions using Tornado Cash. And thus it was much easier for forensic specialists to analyze inputs and outputs and figure out who was who. And it's going to get a little bit harder now because there are a lot more transactions. And I think obviously there will still be a little bit of fear there, but it is what it is. And I think the implications to crypto more broadly is people are going to really, really prize and prioritize implementing algorithmic governance and immutable features. Because right now, a vast majority of DeFi TVL is not housed in immutable contracts. Aave isn't immutable. Lido, I don't think, is immutable, or certainly they can manage the funds. Eigenlayer, same deal. And it's just not a priority Tether isn't immutable. USDC isn't immutable.
Mm.
So I would say like things may evolve, but at the same time, it's hard to say what will happen. Besides, using Tornado Cash is possible. It will definitely become more difficult in the future, and regulators at least are proving that they have an ounce of brains, which is a big positive for us.
Which is an ounce more than we thought.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think that's a very nuanced and based take there, Beebus, in that, it's good in that the sense that the regulatory space is clearing up a little bit, but in terms of material impact, probably not going to be so huge, just because, and this has been my inkling for a while, it seemed like the whole concept of an immutable contract, code is law, all that stuff is kind of old fashioned at this point in crypto. Not too many people seem to really adhere or care about that anymore.
Yeah, it's not real. But I think like you're not going to go to jail for releasing some code that you have no control of that some guy just uses to foot gun himself,
Right on.
which is, I think a little more sensible.
Yeah.
Beavis, what do you think about aside from the legal aspect? Now that there's more information there, what do you think about immutable contracts from like a DeFi builder perspective, or like from a DeFi tech perspective? Do you think the cons outweigh the pros there?
I think the pros 100% outweigh the cons. I think they always have. But the main con is time and cost. It's very expensive to engineer immutable contracts, and takes a lot of time to secure them, because there's no practical emergency response. And sure, you can implement like a pause feature or whatever, but then you'll just get a subpoena that says pause it, and you can make the pause so like, oh, you're only pausing it for a certain amount of time, or you're allowing a specific set of pass-throughs, so you're not like holding any funds hostage, which is, for example, what the sort of pauses that we use. But really, it's like the cost of maintaining immutable software is very low, and I think everybody wants to eventually have immutable software. I think it's our goal. It's probably Aave's goal, but Aave is still shipping upgrades, to the Aave protocol. And it's like, are you going to make $20 billion worth of capital migrate? No, you're not. But these upgrades introduce a lot of risk, and we try to think about smart contracts like paper contracts. If someone signed their transaction saying, I want to deposit to this protocol, and then you just totally change it up on them a month later, and they're like, wait, what the hell? This isn't what I signed up for. That's kind of the mindset that we try to operate within. So we're small fish, so we have a little more leeway than the big dogs, but still, like, we hate doing it. I think everybody hates upgrading. It's scary, it's risky, and migrations are often, although users don't like it, they're much, much more simple and straightforward.
I see. Well, let's put a pin on this now. I feel like there's a lot we could say about immutability. It sounds good, and from what you're describing, it sounds like it's the end goal, but it's not really something you can just do that easily. So, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. And by elephant, I mean a big fat walrus, Big Tony, that you have been talking about a lot lately. He's in profit
Big
currently. What is Big Tony, and why should anyone care that's in the Codex community about Big Tony? What is his deal?
Yeah, well, Big Tony is in profit, but he's been wiping out his own sell orders. So he's holding all Bitcoin and ETH right now, and he's not supposed to be. So his intelligence level is at about the average crypto Twitter user, in that he knows how to buy, but he's figuring out selling at the moment. We should have that fixed in the next couple of days here. But Yeah, I mean, Big Tony is kind of the expression of our AI tech stack, or the beginnings of an expression that's really public and accessible. I think one of the tough things about engineering at the intersection of AI and finance is the value at risk is really high, and thus doing the reliability engineering necessary to create a user-facing product is extreme, like very expensive, very time-consuming. And with Codex, that's the goal. We want this perfectly usable, beautiful transaction builder that anybody can jump in and 10x their skills. But with Tony, it's like, hey, using the same exact tech, we can create these AI agents, which are really popular. Users seem to really adore them. And we can do it while battle testing our AI stack. So Big Tony right now is trading majors and reporting the news. You can follow him at Big Tony XBT. We're ironing out his posting style. You know, right now he's always like, hey, family this, family that. And he doesn't know how to sell it yet. But this week we'll get him dumping on you guys, which I'm sure you'll all love. And if you had been reading his news for the past, he's been live for a few weeks now, you would have known XRP was going to go to the freaking moon. So yeah, I mean, he's doing visual analysis on charts and just doing pure technical trading. And then he's reporting news, and soon we'll have the news influence his trading style. We'll have him trading maybe some meme coins or some mid-cap tokens, some DeFi tokens. And overall, I think I'm pretty sure he's the most advanced AI agent, even if he can't sell, because he's managing his own order book in memory, and it's persistent. So he's setting limit orders to buy and soon to sell tokens. He's setting them to sell, and then he's wiping them out because he's trained on the average CT user, so he's just a hyperbole and hates selling. But he's managing this book in his head, and this is a sneak peek of the dashboard, and everything that will supply to users when they're able to create agents like this themselves. Everything is in natural language, so all the hard stuff we take care of in the background, and then you need only describe his trading style, choose the tokens he trades, and then choose his posting style, his personality. I mean, you can get really complex with the prompts. So this is kind of our entry into the AI agent game, and you'll see kind of the Codex universe expand as we start spinning up AI agents with the dawn of Make.Fun to represent all sorts of brands with all sorts of ways to interact and all sorts of trading styles. So it's like the engineer's solution to marketing. It's like, well, we could hire a marketing guy, or we could just program this thing.
Awesome.
The best.
We need to get him trained on Chud. Then he'll sell. Then
we're actually Aging Chud is in the training set. I gave Munchies, venture apologist, enshrining plebs, Gwart, all the funny guys.
Nice.
I was like, dude, you need to make him post like this, but also LARP as Tony Soprano.
Maybe he should. Has he been trained on the script from The Sopranos?
No, we haven't done a lot of training and fine tuning yet.
He's been trained on the script from Fast and Furious, Corbel.
I mean, it's kind of what it seems like, dude. What about his family all the time?
Everything. Yeah,
his family and his crew.
Yeah. So once we have the trading locked down, which is like the technical flex, we'll start making them funnier. But I would highly recommend, plugging into Big Tony on Twitter and keeping an eye on it, because that's how I've been getting my news, and it's honestly been super useful. And otherwise, it's been interesting to follow along his portfolio.
Would you say he's like the godfather of DEX?
Is he the godfather of DEX? I mean, maybe. We'll see. I think the nice thing about AI is you can give these things personality and let them build their own lore. He's supposed to be like this guy who stumbled into wealth, and he's like this whale who just is throwing money around, and he lives for his family, and I guess trading Bitcoin and ETH and never selling for now.
Hell yeah. So he's about as smart as the average crypto trader, and he's about to get 10 times smarter soon. You're going to add selling. Now, what you mentioned, Make Fun is launching soon. Do you have anything else you want to say on that?
Well, if things go well, if we don't, we've already run into one blocker today, but if things go well, this should be the week. We need to unfortunately replace our router and write one ourselves, which shouldn't be crazy hard. That's like the biggest barrier at the moment between us and launch. But otherwise, quite frankly, it's about ready to go. And if you're in some of the alpha chats, you may have helped bug test our site already. But yeah, look forward to that. And Big Tony is going to make his debut on there day one. So Tony will be the ultimate mascot. He'll be trading right alongside you, and hopefully soon dumping on your heads.
Wonderbar, dude. I love it.
Yeah,
So
and maybe to add the feature, the on-chain feature we're deploying next is you can interact with Big Tony on Twitter and tell him to launch a token for you, and if you give him your address, he'll share the fees with you right from Twitter, which should be funny.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, Corval, get to it. We know you love launching tokens.
I hate launching tokens. I've only really launched one, and it was sucked, dude. Everyone was just being mean to me. And they trying to make me do shit. It's like, I'm sorry, dude. I only got like $100 in this thing. I don't care that much about it.
I do like the idea of training him on the Sopranos script, and I feel like he could like. I feel like a wave could be like Sopranos related meme tokens. I don't know, and he
You
could
think that could be the new
shit
wave?
about them. Yeah, that's the new. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean
that's the next rotation. Bitcoin, ETH, Soprano meme tokens.
Yeah, right now, working on Codex is just we have now 3 engineers, but once we grow out the AI part of the business a little bit, we'll be able to add more bells and whistles and make it pretty cool. So, yeah, we're super excited, and it's like the agent stuff. It's like so simplistic, and it's like we're trying really hard to not have like the ivory tower mindset, like, oh, we need the most engineered solution. We really just want to meet users where they're at, and give them like cool opportunities and give them ways to interact with the tech. Because the thing is, like the hyper engineered solution, the transaction building solution, the really innovative stuff, is just going to take a long time. And the idea is that when it lands in the user's hand, they're not going to know or care. So agents, it's a really easy way to kind of really shove it in people's faces.
Fantastic. I love it, dude. I'm loving that we're seeing some motion here generated. We're going to see some, because we were talking a little bit about, last couple of weeks, a lot about CDX, USD, and now we're talking more about the agentic stuff again. So I just want to, stress people, look at all this stuff that's going on, dude. We're getting closer and closer than ever before.
Dude, this month is going to be insane. Insane.
It's going to be a very Merry Christmas.
I need to like, every week is just going to be a big week, and people are going to not believe me. Every week has been a big week, and then it's just going to end up being a big week, and it is what it is.
Okay.
Well said.
I like that. Yeah, it was very clear. So, we're coming up on the last couple of minutes here. I don't actually have the names for the wheel spin. I'll probably do that in the Discord after, so I can take the time, not on air, to grab the names and put them on the wheel. But I did want to show one piece of community-generated content that I liked quite a bit that Grant Tonto made. He wrote haikus and poems about members of the community, and I thought this was pretty cool. Beebus, Visionary Spark. Beebus builds worlds in the dark. Dreams leave their bold mark. Wow, that's beautiful.
That's so nice.
Charlie DeFi rewards flows like stream-like. Charlie DeFi shapes the dream. On-chain hopes dream. Mason Coral, Mason takes the stage. Codex host with Wisdom's Gauge. Sparks ignite the page. Yeah, there's some real ass shit. So thank you, Grant Tonto, for making this beautiful piece of art. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go through all of this. You guys go out, give it a read. It's very fun, very funny. And if you want to be on the next list, maybe, join the community. Join us on Discord, follow us on Twitter, and start interacting with us. It's always a fun time, and we love to see it. Now, on that note, I want to wrap things up here. Any final words for the audience, Charles?
I would say that because we kind of skipped over it, looping pretty much any and all assets on both Ironclad and Lore is very profitable right now. And I am doing that bigly. So speaking of funding rates, if you hate paying funding rates for your leverage longs, try looping on a money market and get paid in scroll rewards or OP rewards or whatever rewards. Lore and Ironclad are very, very good places to be in that regard at this time.
Yeah,
so,
most Ironclad incentives are paid out in OP, and most Lore incentives paid out in scroll, which is really exciting. Honestly, it makes our lives way easier. And I would also like to give a formal round of applause to Ironclad, the Ironclad community, the Ironclad team. Treasury value has broken $1 million in mode and OP and ETH and IUSD. So keep grinding upward and rightward, and big announcements coming soon for our friends at Ironclad.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Genius Analyst Charles, CEO Bebus, and you, most treasured viewer at home. Thank you so much. We'll hope you join us again next week, where we'll have even more news. And also, as Bebus is so inelegantly hinting, big announcements coming this week and next week. So be sure to turn on the notifications and all that. And we'd also appreciate likes, comments, retweets, all that stuff. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week. Adios.
Thanks, guys.
Got that CDX token, we the ones chosen. Every state, every youth, while I stay golden. Codex Club, AI my focus, it's an anthem. CEX got them frozen.